me clearly. America is not a racist country.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Juan Mendez of the UN. And, every now and then the UN will come out with a report saying we should get reparations, or they'll come out and talk about the police shootings and all the violations that the US is committing against their Black population. You know, the US should never be anywhere on this planet talking about human rights violations. They commit the biggest human rights violations every single day in this country. And it's been going on nonstop for 500 years. These people don't even take a damn break. They just keep going and going and going. When it comes down to all of the human atrocities they have committed against us, they're like the damn Energizer bunny. So let's get into this story. US must tackle police brutality against Black people head on, UN experts say. But yeah, we know these things get said, but the UN don't enforce anything that the powers that be will do anything with. Yeah, they'll just sit and blow it off like they always do, but nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's been talks about the police violence in this country forever now. And nothing has changed. And that's because they don't want nothing to change. All of the atrocities that they have been committing on our community, they want to continue on with it. They have showed no signs of trying to fix or correct it. And that's because in their eyes, nothing is wrong. So the US must move beyond piecemeal reform and slogan making and tackle the ongoing scourge of police brutality and law enforcement discrimination against Black people. A United Nations mission has concluded at the end of a historic 2-week tour of the country. So they made a visit here. UN experts completed their first official visit to the US as part of a system of global inequities set up by Human Rights Council after the police murder of George Floyd in May 2020. As they ended their tour on Friday in Washington, D.C., the experts called for a nationwide commitment to address discrimination suffered by Black Americans in their daily dealings with the law. In the U.S., racial inequity dates back to the very creation of this country. Yeah, they're telling the truth about that. And there'll be no quick fixes. This is Dr. Tracy Kesey, one of the two independent UN experts who conducted the visit. To this day, racial discrimination permeates through encounters with law enforcement, from first contact, arrest, detention, sentencing, and disenfranchisement. What was needed was a whole government approach, Kesey added. This needs to be more than a slogan and calls for reform. There is no way you can take a look at this system and the state that it's in, and the state that it's been in for centuries. You can't reform this crap. You can't. And you certainly can't reform it with the same people in place. So if you're just going to come up with a reform and the same corrupt people get to sit, and I mean, and these people are corrupt in everything, including murder, and you're going to let them remain in place, then reform is counterproductive. It really is. You can't tackle it that way. So if you're going to make changes, but the same demons are sitting around and going to still be sitting in the same positions, then it's all for naught. In the course of their 15-day mission, Kisi and Juan Mendez of Argentina, and he got a lot of nerve. We know what happened in Argentina. That's why they don't have a black population. And see, like I said, you got corrupt people running it and corrupt people that refuse to fix it. So anyway, visited 6 U.S. states: Washington, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minneapolis, and New York. So their mission was to investigate excessive use of force, militarized policing, racial profiling, and other human rights violations by law enforcement and penal agencies against Black Americans. And you know, the sad part, there are, we already know there's Black chief of police in certain places in America, and you also got Black wardens. And it has never made anything better for the community having these people in place, because these people have to be and act just like them folks. So as long as they do that, then they are safe in their jobs. As they crisscrossed the country, the experts had emotional encounters with families of the victims of police killings and other law enforcement abuses. So they are talking about also George Floyd, and they also spent time with the mother of Philando Castile and Amir Locke, who were killed by law enforcement. Locke's mother, Karen Wells, told the visiting experts, "You are probably wondering why there is an empty chair right there, because that's where Amir should be sitting. All of the families now have an empty chair." Presenting their preliminary findings, Kesey said that they had witnessed a pattern that could be traced to what she called a deep transic legacy, so of slavery and legalized discrimination. She said across the country, there remains a lack of awareness and acknowledgement of the extent to which racial inequities are still prevalent. Oh, no, 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 no. They're fully aware of it. That's where you're wrong, Kesey. They are fully 100% aware of it. You know, that's why you see these folks running around with CRT trying to bury the history. They're aware of it. That's why they're trying to bury it. Okay. They have spent the greater part of their lives either laughing at it or ignoring it. And once in a blue moon, a few of them will pop up and acknowledge here and there, and but that's the extent of it. They'll either laugh at it, ignore it, or once in a while will make mention of it. Or another one they like to do is deny that is as bad as we're saying it is. You know, "Oh, slavery wasn't that bad. Oh, just cooperate with the police. It's not that bad." You know, they do that stuff. Okay. But even in doing stuff like that, you're still acknowledging it. Yes, you are. So anyway, so when you say they lack awareness, no, there is no lack of awareness, Kesey. You know, I don't know how you concluded that, but there is no lack of awareness. They are fully aware of racism. They're fully aware of what law enforcement is out here doing, and they're fully aware of the history of how long this has been going on. They don't care enough to do anything about it. So anyway, the result was the culminating exhaustion in the Black community, the UN expert said. Mendez, a former UN special rapporteur on torture. So he said that he had been moving throughout the visit, And, he was listening to the pain of the victims and their families and the resounding call for accountability. Yeah. I mean, that's where I say there's a lack of concern. That's why nothing will ever get done. So, anyway, we support those calls for accountability, Mendez said. He was heartened by successful prosecution of police officers involved in high profile killings, such as Floyd. However, many more cases remain unsolved, suggesting the continuing degree of impunity. Mendez added that their mission would be calling on the U.S. Justice Department to make more serious, proactive use of its powers through consent decrees to intervention in the interworkings of local police departments to address some of the most egregious abuses. That's the thing. If you know the history of the Justice Department, the Justice Department does not help us. They don't. They don't have a history of really taking the time to do their job and do something about all of these people that are breaking the law when they do things to us. Or when these cops skip out of court after murdering somebody unarmed and was no threat to them, if the Department of Justice really wanted to make an impact, they would go back and grab that cop up and make sure there are other ways they can get them behind bars, but they don't do nothing. They don't have a history of really doing big things for the Black community. The DOJ does not work for our community. They work for every other community, but they don't work for ours. That is their history. Okay. And yeah, they should use their power to make a lot of corrections out here, but they never do. They never do. And it doesn't matter if it's a Republican administration or a Democrat administration. The DOJ functions exactly the same. So, the UN experts will present their final report to the Human Rights Council in Geneva in September or October. They indicated that among the demands they are likely to make is a call for better nationwide data and record keeping. In the absence of a national database, Mendez said police officers who had complaints or misconduct or excessive force filed against them were allowed to continue serving, in some cases, going on to be involved in killings of Black people. He added the mechanism also received allegations of police officers who were previously guilty or disciplined for misconduct, afterwards being hired by a different police department. Yes. You know, and it's amazing how when it came down to Tyree Nichols, they took the peace license away from the cops, but I have never seen them do that to a white officer that's been out here killing. I have not heard any talk of them taking a they sure didn't in Breonna Taylor's case, and we got Miles Cosgrove that went to a sheriff's department in a different county and got hired, okay? So, no, they don't do that to them. So far, I've only seen them do this to Black officers, take their peace license away. Okay, so among other other likely demands signaled by the experts were a call for an end of racial profiling in policing, which they won't do, y'all. They heavily rely on racial profiling to jail a lot of innocent people. That's how a lot of innocent people get jailed in America, through racial profiling. So they don't want that to go away, because then how are they going to continue to fill their prisons if they don't have that. Just look at somebody and say, I think that person is a criminal. They're up to something. And then next thing you know, that person is part of the system and they're in there for a crime that never happened. A lot of that is done through racial profiling. All right. So they go into talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which did not pass because they don't want us to have any kind of protections. And remember, James Clyburn was the one that wanted to take out qualified immunity that was part of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So they're not serious about doing anything for us. And they're saying they want uh, another thing, the end of stereotyping Black women and girls as angry and aged up. They got a lot of nerve. They be aging like freaking bananas and talking about somebody looks older. Please get out of here with that crap. Rooting out of white supremacist law enforcement officers to ensure they no longer wear the badge. The complete visit marks an intensification in the UN's focus on racial justice in America in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing and the summer of protests it triggered across the US and around the world. A year after George Floyd died, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, lamented that she called the insignificant step taken to the US to stop people of African descent from being killed. They absolutely won't do that. They make a lot of money off of death. They do. They make a ton of money. That's why they're never going to stop what they do to us. So anyway, fatal police shootings affecting all races and ethnicity have continued unabated since the summer of BLM protest. The average still runs at a rate of almost 3 people daily. In April of 2021, the Human Rights Council set up what is called the Expert Mechanism to advance racial justice and equality in law enforcement. It's part of a network of independent UN experts and monitors used, to for governments to do more to address human rights violations in their territories. In other words, do nothing. Although they have no power to enforce their findings, UN experts have shown themselves able to profoundly influence domestic political debate, especially within the US. In June of 2018, the Donald Trump White House, then Ambassador UN Nikki Haley, pulled the US out of membership of the Human Rights Council, complaining that it was a cesspool of political bias. So, in other words, they US don't want anybody telling them what to do when it comes down to us. If they want to continue the racism on and do whatever they want, that's what they want to do. So they pull out of that so nobody can tell them what to do. And see, a lot of countries are calling the US out on their BS because they have gone around this world calling out human rights violations, and there is no bigger human rights violator on the planet than the US. So Haley, who is currently vying with Trump for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024, made her move just days before the UN monitor on extreme poverty delivered with withering report on U.S. Deprivation after a 2-week tour of the country. So, they're saying they already sparked debate in the US, but police brutality has been debated so many times in the US and nothing ever changes. Like I said, because these folks like the system that is in place and they don't want it to change. They don't care what we have to go through. They could care less about that. They need to live comfortable at all cost. Y'all, please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.